Hello, Rick, and
Hey, Carlos.
welcome everyone to another episode of Content Creation Labs. Very excited. Rick and I are twins in today, or twins in. I don't know. Just wearing the colors. Happy Thanksgiving, Rick, and I hope you got a well-deserved break yesterday. And thanks for coming in today to the recording. I know you are off, but anyway, this is very important. So and always love chatting with you about content and everything that is going on around our industry. So we have a fully packed episode today. We're going to talk about the dumpster fire that is going on at OpenAI. We're also going to talk about the updates to the quality rating guidelines. Also, what is the most important step for content creation? We're going to tell you a little bit about that. And another question for to explore today is AI writing losing its shine. We want to talk about that a little bit. There is also something for you to take home, what is how to generate infinite blog post ideas. We want to talk about that a little bit. And last but not least, Google is not perfect, and is about the Dan Sullivan reflection last week on a presentation he made. But fully packed episode, very exciting topics. So let's let's start talking about this train wreck or this car wreck dumpster fire that is going on in OpenAI. Probably all of you, unless you're living under a rock, have seen all the drama. It actually looks like a reality show that is going on with OpenAI. So the CEO gets fired, then a lot happened, then he gets rehired, then everybody says that they're going to quit. I don't know. It's exciting to watch. And I just feel like you need to get a bucket of popcorn and then just watch this and see how things evolve. But what is your take on this, Rick?
I have never, ever in my life been so invested in the personal power struggles or politics of some company that I am not affiliated with whatsoever. But I think a lot of people would say this didn't come as a surprise, right? You have a not for profit board that was built to really focus on the safeguards of artificial intelligence and the to better all of humanity mission that OpenAI was initially created for. But then they bring in Sam Altman to create this for-profit, wholly owned department or division of OpenAI. Now, maybe they didn't see, a few years later, it being a $90 billion segment, but man, what a power struggle, right? But yeah, I was checking my news feeds all weekend long. Last weekend as this was going, he's gone, he's coming back, he's not coming back. They go through two interim CEOs over the course of a weekend. Altman ends up with Microsoft, and then ultimately back in the role, and the board is out, save for D'Angelo, I think, is the only surviving member of the board. Crazy stuff.
I know there's a lot of speculation why this all happened. And it would be interesting to hear all the sides of the story. I don't think the board is, they're not, crazy, right? They don't put the board there because they're crazy people. So probably they have some reasoning behind it. But also on the other end, probably, I don't know, seemed like some knee-jerk reaction or some not very thoughtful decision. Anyway, why does it matter to you and I? What does it matter to everybody and not to our listeners and to our audience? Well, probably a lot of us are playing with AI and testing AI, and we know it's going to be a big part of our lives going forward. So one of the first things that came to my mind is what happens if this company were to collapse? Why would it collapse? Maybe not because of all the CEO drama and all that stuff, but a big part of the problem is that they using a lot of computing power, and that costs a lot of money. And because there's so much demand, they cannot keep up. They had to cap the number of people that could subscribe to GPT Plus, I think. And well, that's concerning, right? Because if you start depending on these technologies too much, and they're running out of capacity, well, there's a risk. So we internally decided, okay, we're going to start looking for alternatives should these happen. Not only whether they collapse or not, but we should always have a plan B. Maybe we're looking at Anthropic, Claude, and any other LLM that we might want to use. So anyway, my take and my advice to anybody out there listening, and using ChatGPT or OpenAI's technology, looking at a plan B should things go south. But it'll be interesting to watch, see what happens. But yeah, we'll keep everybody appraised if there's any other updates. But let's talk about more specific stuff for our industry. So Google came out last week or the last few days with new updates to the search quality guidelines. And it wasn't a big thing. It was not a huge update, but there were some interesting nuggets there. I think overall, they're just trying to refine and continue to refine, as always, their guideline, their guidance for the quality raters. I think one of the highlights was some of the new blocks around forums, right? Very specific about Reddit stuff, right? And they mentioned the word decorum a few times, which I think if they find a forum that is too combative or too just people insulting each other, like you see all the time in the internet, they're gonna rate that as a low quality, which I think is totally fair. This update is just to continue to fine tune the guidelines for quality raters, right? So they included more guidance around how to rate forum content, right? UGC. And they also included some more clarification and more guidelines and examples around needs met, right? So the quality raters want to make sure that the content or the website is meeting needs of the searcher. So they're providing more examples around. So they just keep adding little nuances and fine tuning the quality rating guidelines. I don't think there is anything huge or earth shattering in the new guidelines for us to take any particular action, but is good to keep on track of these changes. And yeah, just stay up to date to what's going on there. Do you have anything to add to that, Rick?
No, like you said, there wasn't a whole lot in this update, but I would be mindful. You brought up Reddit. It's a good place for businesses to go to get involved in their industry and see what's being said about them. There is a priority on UGC content. So it's good to know what's being created out there. And it's a great way for you to get involved with your audience, use it for a source for ideation, and really just connect with your audience, Carlos.
Awesome. Okay. So let's move into what do you think is the most important step when you're creating content, especially if you're creating written content. So I don't know. Would you guess, or Rick, would you want to go into?
I have an opinion on this, and it may not be shared by everyone, but I think a content brief is the most critical part of the entire content production process, starting all the way back at strategy and ideation, and taking it all the way through design and publishing. The content brief is the key component to getting outstanding content. You want to know why?
Okay. I don't disagree with you, but tell us why, please.
Okay.
Make your case.
Here's my case. Having worked with hundreds of businesses, I feel that there's this impression out there that the magic happens with the writer. We have the right writer. They're going to get our message out to our audience. And some writers are that way, but very few. Most of them, they want to take what you're giving them and turn it into some, valuable content, but they want to get from A to B and be done and move on to their next task. But the writer isn't the one with the knowledge. The writer isn't the one who knows who your business is, what your business's take is on whatever the subject matter you're covering for that week, right? So we've used content briefs in the past as more of an SEO tool than an EEAT tool. It's got your primary keywords, got your required links in it, things that might have a little direction, maybe even an outline for the writer. But for the most part, it's how we're getting the keyword information over to the writer so that they can create the content. But here's the thing: the content brief should be used as a method of transferring that knowledge, that opinion, the insights, the angle that you see this content taking over to the writer. It should contain things like, what are we trying to solve for the reader? we should know based on what we're targeting here for a keyword, what the intent for that keyword is, and who our audience is. So if we have our audience, we have our intent, we should be able to come up with an idea of what that reader really wants. And we've got to get that information to the writer. We also have a business goal, right? We're not just altruistically publishing content to better humanity, like OpenAI. But we have something we want to happen. It could be just, brand awareness. So something maybe a little subtle, but in many cases, there's a tangible goal we're trying to hit here. We want them to sign up for something. We want them to buy something. We want them to click through further down the funnel into case studies, whatever the case may be. There's a goal, and that brief needs to deliver that goal to the writer specifically, not stick a CTA at the end. And then the brief has the outline. In the outline, 9 out of 10 briefs we see, Carlos has a list of H2s, maybe a sentence of direction for the writer, right? But is there any knowledge in that outline? No, it's a skeleton of what the content's going to look like. But as a writer, I could take that in any number of directions, and I've given our internal team instruction that every piece of content has an opinion. It takes a stand on whatever subject we're covering. It takes our stand, crowd content. This is what we believe. This is how we think you should approach something. And if we're not getting that information to the writer, are we relying on them to come up with our opinion themselves? And that's ultimately what happens. They don't have an opinion. So all they're doing is regurgitating a few articles from Google. What can they, learn about in 30 minutes, an hour, and then put into there, and you end up with that high level, low value content. So the brief is where that transfer of knowledge happens. Kind of passionate about that.
Yeah. I'm passionate about it too. And I have a couple points to make. So the brief is like the blueprint, right? Okay, what is the expectation in that blueprint? Like when you're building a house, the architect takes all this time and put all these dreams and all these great ideas and put it into a blueprint, right? And then the general contractors, the builders, the civil engineers going to make it real, right? Make it. And if that blueprint is not great, then the house is not going to look that great. So
Garbage
we
in,
see
garbage
this
out.
every time. All the time we see clients come in, they say, okay, I want a great piece of content, but then they give us a very poor brief, right? And then they expect something amazing to come out. So people need to take responsibility of their briefs and, give really great instructions. If those, garbage in, garbage out, if your instructions are not great, well, you're not going to get something great. You'll be lucky to get something great at your end. So that's why briefs and the pre-planning part are so important. So we're very passionate about this. We have a great brief template on our website. If, go grab it. It's free, of course. So that could be a good take it and make it your own and also modify it as you need to. But, always put enough time and plan and love into your brief so you can get great content created. So, okay, enough of a rant around briefs. Let's talk about AI for a second. Is it losing its shine?
But it never have.
No, don't get me wrong. I think AI is, of course, is a new big disruption in technology. But for content writing, is it losing its shine? Why am I saying this? Or why am I asking this? So in the last few weeks, or since ChatGPT came out, everybody jumped on the wagon of, okay, this is amazing. This is the best thing that has ever happened, and started creating a bunch of content using AI. So there was a lot of hype, but now I think people are starting to realize, okay, it's great, but it's not that great, right? Like many new technologies, there is always a lot of hype and a lot of noise around them. And then people realize, okay, what is the real use case for this technology? And then people move on with their lives. But we recently have a conversation with a client that went all in on AI creation and just came back and say, look, this was way harder than I thought. And the results weren't as good as we thought. So he ended up trading one efficiency for another bird. So at the end, his net, there was not a net gain. It was just his employees ended up having to work longer to make these content better using AI. So, but Rick, I know you have very, very passionate thoughts around this. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, AI has been the bright, shiny object this year, right? And suddenly here was this way to take what can be a costly expense for businesses that produce a lot of content. That suddenly here's a way that I can get it done like that. It looks like good content. The grammar's tight. It's on topic. Why should I invest in human written content that takes longer to do when I could just do this in an instant? But I think what people are starting to figure out is that just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Um, with AI is just like, let's go back to when there wasn't AI. Okay. And you wanted to outsource your writing or hire freelance writers, and you'd go and look in the market, and here's option A. I can get it done at 5 cents a word. Here's option B at 25 cents. Well, I'll go with option A. Just like with AI, there's a scope here, and then I think it's funny. We've kind of romanticized human writing since AI came out, but human writing isn't all that it's cracked up to be either. There's plenty of poor writing out there, and it was all done by humans. It's been a problem since the internet was a thing. So when it comes to using AI, if you go to that bargain basement end, which is just throw in a quick prompt or give it an outline and say, write this, you're going to get that low end stuff. It can be valuable with the right person behind it. You have to combine proper usage, proper prompts. You almost have to coax the content out of it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with exactly what everybody else has. Or you're going to end up with writing that's just absolute. Like, have you ever tried to get voice out of AI, out of, like, say, ChatGPT, Carlos? Because there's none and there's 10. There's no in between. If you're asking for a more unique voice, you can't seem to sprinkle it in. It just dumps the entire salt shaker on your plate, and it makes it obvious that it's AI. So the key here, just like with human writers, Carlos, find the right system, find the right person who knows how to use AI correctly. And not only will you get content that's as good as you were getting before, you can get better content.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And just to be clear, we're not, if anything, we're pro using new technology to create better content, right? So, but we noticed that some people that went full hard on it at the beginning now are coming to the realization, oh, wait a minute, this is not what we expect it to be. And actually takes more work or a similar amount of work, maybe similar amount of cost. So, my advice to everybody out there is, just keep playing, keep experimenting. And when you find your use case where you can really use it to enhance your content, go for it. Right? No, this is not there's no silver bullet in this game. So what I'm trying to say. And because everybody has access to this technology, well, now, it's table stakes almost, right? So there's no competitive advantage. So you need to look for a new competitive advantage. So anyway, enough of that, Randy. Let's talk about how to generate infinite ideas for your blog. And this is coming really from a blog post from Ahrefs. I really liked it. And I think people are always struggling to create new original ideas. So there is a few tips in that blog that I would like to share here. They call the content ideation loop, where you read, watch, and listen widely, capture inspiration when it strikes, make things that help people, and learn from feedback. So fairly simple, fairly interesting, kind of flywheel or loop for creating great content. But okay, let's talk about read, watch, and listen widely. This is about following great content, right? So always follow the best blogs, the best influencers, the people that you really like that you think are creating the best content. So follow them for inspiration. It's great to follow people that you think are putting out great content to inspire where you want to go. Also capture inspiration when it strikes, right? Always be taking notes, because you get ideas, in the, shower thoughts, things like that. And then you just have to put them down to make sure that you have a list of ideas. On our end, in Crowd Content, we have a kind of a sandbox where we, in our content calendar, where we put just random ideas that we want to explore at some point. So it's good to capture them. And always, make content that's going to help people, right? And learn from feedback, right? So you need to put your reps out there. You need to put your content out there. So you get the feedback about what you're creating. Is it good? Is it not? Is it engaging? Etc. So here are the 8 ideation methods. 1, answer questions. So you can go, many of these SEO software have a section where you can see what people are asking, right? The PAA, people also ask. So you can look at that and you can try to answer those questions. So that's idea number 1. Idea number 2 is address sales objections, right? So let's say you might want to compare a couple products, right? And explore the difference between your product and the closest competitor, things like that, right? And then just create a blog of using one of the objections that come in your sales process. Yep. And then, your product is too expensive. Maybe you create a blog post around why is it justify the price. Idea number 3, capture your success. This is about case studies, right? If you were successful with a client, with your product, somebody used your product and got great results, that's something to capture. We love case studies. We write case studies for our clients, and we write our own case studies when we think that's going to help somebody get inspiration and it's going to help them in their process. Tip number 4, challenge your competitors. So go and see what they're ranking for, see what some of their top pages are, and then try to do something better, trying to outcompete. Can you bring something new to the table? Can you bring a new insight? That's another idea. Idea number 5, analyze your industry. Of course, look at what are the trends in your industry, right? What is new? What you want to be a thought leader. You should be educate people about all these new trends, what's to come, like some speculation about the future or some prediction about the future. Right? You want to be a thought leader in your industry. So what is going on in your industry? Challenge industry truisms or maybe myth busting, right? There is always this belief in every industry. So you can create a blog or a piece of content to challenge one of those myths. Number 7, share useful personal experiences. I love this one. I talk a lot about storytelling and using personal experiences to convey messages. So you can think about like your personal case study, or maybe sometimes when you're testing something new and you can document your journey through that, or, just again, create your own personal case study. And number 8, document your vision. I like this one because not a lot of companies or many companies are focused on SEO. They're just focusing on keywords and things like that, but they don't talk about their vision. They don't create content around the vision of their business. So I think this is an interesting idea as well. So I know there was a lot packed there. So I will post the link to the blog here in the newsletter, but I think it's worth for all of you to take a look at that blog. And we're going to close the episode talking about Google is not perfect. So Dan Sullivan had a kind of come to Jesus moment in the last couple of weeks. He was making a presentation and really the punchline is Google is not perfect. That's what he was saying. And he was reflecting about why after there's updates or algorithm updates, there's so many complaints around why people lost their rankings and all these things. So he did a really interesting presentation and kind of covered that topic. But Rick, do you read his posts? Do you read his presentations? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I did, and I think some SEOs out there were maybe cringing a little bit at this, but Danny Sullivan's absolutely right, and he took the blame on behalf of Google and saying that maybe we need to be a little more clear here in going out and saying that, trustworthy pages have things like bylines and author pages. I think he listed out 4 or 5 things as attributes of pages that could be considered trustworthy. So what does every SEO out on the planet do? They make a checklist, right? To have a trustworthy page, you must have these 5 things. When the truth is that whether you have an author page or not, whether you have a byline or not, it's not going to make a bit of difference as far as how you're ranking. It's almost like saying, these top 3 habits of the world's most successful people are A, B, and C. So if I do A, B, and C, am I going to be one of the world's most successful people? Probably not. right? It's a lot more holistic than that. There's so
Yeah.
many things that go into it that it isn't going to make it. It's good practice. And you should, because if you look at most of the sites that do well, they have those attributes, but they're not doing well because of those attributes. It's kind of a cause and correlation thing, right? Or causation and correlation. Where sure, it's good to mimic, but it just goes deeper.
Yeah. So I think a couple takeaways from me where again, Google is not perfect. So what he says is, look, we won't get it right every time. But we're always trying to improve. So you see these algorithms, they have updates. You have a lot of volatility around them, right? But they're always in the long run, they're always just trying to make search better, right? So there is always going to be the odd case where, you have this query and wholly off results, right? But I think we got to give Google the benefit of the doubt and expect that things will stabilize and improve with time. So that's takeaway number one. They're not perfect. They're always trying to improve. Takeaway number two is he said, I don't understand why we've been saying the same for many years. Great, contentful people, but people don't follow that. And I think his reflection is like, they need to do a better job of communicating, because they tell people don't do things for Google if you want to be successful in Google, which is totally counterintuitive. So what he's saying is like the communication going forward should be more like, okay, do things for Google if you think they're going to be helpful for people, right? So it's a more positive guidance rather than a negative guidance. So I think that was actually pretty insightful and pretty interesting. So, but again, the guidance hasn't changed, right? Just do things that are great for people are going to be helpful. But it was interesting. So the other thing, like you said, they give broad guidelines and people take it as a specific, right? Like, oh, you need to do this, like a checklist, like you said. So, but it's always more complicated than that, more nuanced than that. But they're gonna get better at the communication. So hopefully, we hear more about this and we get more clear guidance, so we can keep creating better content.
Like you said, though, Carlos, the guidance has always been there. It's been there. Go back 10, 15 years that we're saying the same thing. What's changing is their ability to detect it. But the guidance as far as, write for people, help your audience, provide value to them. Those are the things that ultimately in the long run will help your SEO efforts.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for today. That was a lot, but I hope you all enjoyed and got some takeaways from this episode. Again, thank you, Rick. And thank you all for listening. This is Crowd Content. And remember, we help companies and agencies create amazing content and exceptional content. So until the next one.
See you next week.